when you're applying for a role, you need to have some kind of knowledge of what that role looks like. Okay. And today we have like lots of resources which we can leverage on to get the knowledge of that role, and LinkedIn being the most important one. Reach out to people, understand what the role entails, and first of all, does it fit your profile? Does it fit your interests?
Hey guys, welcome back to yet another one-on-one session with Seekho. Seekho is the first micro-learning based community wherein you can learn just about anything you want in a minute. In short, it's a world where knowledge meets seekers. So today we have Nitin Agarwal with us. His professional journey is filled with expertise and diversity. So Nitin, why don't you just go and introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks for giving this opportunity. So, hi guys, I'm Nitin Agarwal. Professionally, I'm a chartered accountant. Currently, I'm working with EY as a senior consultant. And the twist about my story is that I have been an entrepreneur. I have run my own consulting firm for 1.5 years. Before that, I have worked with a boutique consulting firm as well as a bulge bracket investment bank, JP Morgan. So that's about my professional journey. Personally, I also blog. I blog about introversion and psychology. So you may want to check out the blog maybe at the later point.
I must say, it's very dynamic.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Okay, so to begin with, let's have a swift rapid fire round before we start the Q&A round, just to keep things a little absorbing. I'm assuming you're ready to go.
Yep.
Cool. Asked to write a book that will be published nationally addressing the youth, what would you write for them?
I'll write essentially on a fulfillment and job satisfaction.
Okay, that's very nice. A career advice you would have given to your younger self.
Uh, it's much more important to choose a particular profile and maybe not go for the pay in early years of your career.
I totally agree with you. Asked to interview a famous personality in a corporate world, who would you choose and why?
I'd go for Elon Musk because he has that basically innovative mindset, and what he's doing is completely different from other entrepreneurs. So definitely, I'll go for him.
That's the most popular one. Okay. What was the toughest interview that you remember cracking in your career so far?
Toughest interview. So that was for a consulting firm, boutique consulting firm based out in Noida, having clients in Middle East. So I had to essentially, interview with all the partners that the firm had, the 4 partners. So yeah, that was the toughest one that I cracked.
Okay. It's good. The last one, the next big thing planned in your career ahead.
Okay. This is something which should not have gone into rapid fire, but yeah. So the next big thing would be, again, like as a consultant, for me it is very important to build worldwide connects with people, as well as take my consulting journey ahead to a partner level. So that is what I'm looking forward to.
Okay. So it was a great round, and so without wasting any more time and without waiting, let's move on and get this conversation started. Are you ready?
I'm completely ready.
Okay. So, how hard or easy is it for a CA to get into a management consulting?
Okay. So, if we talk about management consulting, it is traditionally seen as a profession for MBAs, and that is the global standard for management consulting. So that is why, in India also, MBAs are preferred. So coming to how hard it is to get for CAs into management consulting, it is a little hard. CAs are traditionally seen as auditors, tax experts, and accountants. So that is why they basically get less opportunity to get into core management consulting. But at the same time, specifically, there are 3 tier of firms: tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Tier 1 are MBBs, McKinsey, Bain, and BCG. And in MBBs, yes, they choose MBAs only, but BCG has a specific cycle that runs for CAs, in which you can give a shot, or maybe annually they hire 5 to 6 CAs in their consulting division, front end consulting division. It is easier to get into Big Fours, which are tier 3 consulting firms, which come after tier 2, that is LEK Consulting and Roland Berger and so on. So tier 3 is Big Fours, and it is still easier for CAs to get into Big Fours than consulting, because maybe Big Fours know how CAs work, because they have been traditionally auditing and accounting firms. So yep, that is where you can get into consulting.
Okay, so that information was pretty new to me, at least.
Okay, yeah. In fact, if I add on something to it, I think it would be, if I give an advice to aspirants who want to get into consulting, as CAs, I would say that in the initial years of your career, rather go for a boutique consulting firm or a firm which is providing CFO advisory or something, because it is definitely going to be a little difficult to crack into the top tier 1, 2, and 3 consulting firms. So that is what worked for me. I basically started my career with a boutique consulting firm, a small consulting firm based out in Mumbai. Then I co-founded my own consulting firm, and entrepreneurship gave me a huge base and edge to get into core management consulting in a Big Four. So yeah, that worked for me.
It's really nice to know that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so so moving on, what are some of the challenges of creating your own consultancy firm?
Okay, so if I talk about the greatest and the most important challenge, that the most vital challenge that you'll face if you create your own consulting firm, is getting clients. You need patience. As consultants, you are trusted advisors to the board of directors of the organizations, of the client organizations, right? And why should they trust you? So if you don't have a background, if you don't have the knowledge, if you don't have the credentials with you, then it is definitely a little difficult to leverage on anything, to get in front of the client, get in front of a prospect and pitch your company as a consultant and your services as a consultant. So that is the most important challenge, that is getting clients. Second thing is, you need consistent innovation. You always have to stay one step ahead of the prospects, one step ahead of the market, to know what is going on and what is the next coming thing that will basically, be in demand. For example, nowadays, robotic process automation, RPA, is in demand, and this is something which is picking pace, specifically in the SMB world. There, you need to know what RPA is and how to implement it in SMBs, how to leverage the capabilities so that you can pitch that to the clients. The third most important thing is managing your finances, because as consultants, it may seem that you may even work without an office or work from home and then go to the client's places. Yes, you do save a lot on a lot of these kind of overhead expenses, but you have to spend a lot on resources. To get good resources, the competition is huge, and people are paying enormous amounts to consultants. So that is why getting the right talent on board, you have to pay them, and to pay them you need that buffer with you. So these are the top 3 challenges that I would like to highlight.
Okay, challenges come every other way, but you just have to face them. But I believe these challenges are the ones, like, they are very, very, dynamic, variant challenges.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So moving on, what is an as-is analysis in consulting?
Okay, so if we talk about the as-is analysis, first of all, as the word suggests, as is, what you're doing is you are trying to understand the current state of processes of a client. And there are essentially 2 objectives why you do that. First is, either you want to document the current processes, that this is what is happening, and this is the document for that, creating standard operating procedures and even desktop procedures for the client's staff to use, and making it easier for the client to transition staff and knowledge transfer in future. The second most important objective why as-is analysis is done from a consultant's point of view is to identify opportunities of improvement, so that we can understand and identify the to be processes, that this is what should happen rather than what is currently happening. But for that, you need to understand the current state of the processes of the client, because you are new to the client organization. You don't know how the processes are going on. And to be very candid, 80% of the times even clients do not know what is going on into their organization. So that is why it is very important for us as consultants to do the as-is analysis, to bring clarity to the board. The major stakeholders involved in this are the consultants and the subject matter experts on the client's side. SMEs can be anybody, as in whoever is owning the process, whoever is doing the process on a daily basis, they can be the subject matter experts. So these are the two main parties. These are focus interviews that we conduct, and these focus interviews help us to get a grasp of the process. We try to build a process map, and then validate it with the client. So this is how the as-is analysis is done and documented.
Okay, that was very insightful. People who are not into this thing may not know it, but it's very, very insightful for the people who are aspiring to be a consultant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, what are some simple technology interventions that can help SMBs improve their process?
Okay, so if we talk about SMBs, the most important and the most basic technology intervention that they should make is bringing in an ERP, an enterprise resource planning software. In India specifically, even most of the SMBs are still working on traditional softwares like Tele or Busy, and these softwares are more of accounting softwares rather than managing the whole inventory and product and so on. So you cannot maintain customer relationships in Tele. You cannot maintain proper inventory, SKU wise, everything in Tele. So these are traditional things that still SMBs use. Even up to a turnover of 100 CR, SMBs are using these softwares. So the first and most important is bringing in an ERP, and then implementing that ERP properly within their organization, not just using the basic accounting functionalities again in the ERP. Getting a tank and not knowing how to use it is of no use. So that is the most important. Second, I think, like the product management softwares, wherein you can manage your SKUs, the stock keeping units, manage your inventory and the movement of inventory, the whole life cycle. And then the CRM softwares, customer relationship management software, specifically for B2C businesses. It is very important, and specifically in the age of digitization, you cannot manage your inventory on pen and paper. And you would be surprised to know, even SMBs having turnover of up to 50 CR, they are still using the traditional Excel or maybe even like traditional registers to record their inventory, which is quite surprising for people, for consultants like us. But again, this gives us opportunity to improve their systems. Finally, the final technology interventions that we can make is robotic process automation, as I said earlier, and as well as bringing in like systems like IVR or chatbots to the client system, to the client processes. So RPA is a huge one. This is something which everyone can leverage and which is not very expensive in today's era.
Okay, so just from my own insights, I believe managing quantitative along with the qualitative aspects is very important for firms.
Makes complete sense. So I'll just take a minute to elaborate a little bit on it from my perspective. Unfortunately, a lot of SMBs do not focus well on their HR department, specifically human resource department. They think that human resources is just for hiring and firing people. So though that is not the case, if you talk about any top tier company, human resource department is considered par with finance department in planning and budgeting their annual cycles and FT count, full-time employee count, and like manpower budgeting and so on. So coming to the qualitative aspect that you just talked about, HR department is actually responsible for maintaining a lot of quality in the company as a on from the culture's point of view. So once that is set, there is how measuring the quality of the processes and everything. But the culture needs to have that it needs to be embedded to that kind of ethos in the organization. So that is what HR department can do for you. But yes, this is what is missing in SMBs.
Okay, your experience has a lot to say about it.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so the next one is, why is change management important after implementing process changes?
Okay. Uh, you know, so there are a lot of resources which are available on the internet or so. You will hear about 7 hours, this, that, a lot of things. So I'll not talk about them. I'll talk from my experience. Why change management is important after implementing a new process is because you're dealing with people, and inherently all of us are somewhere resistant to change, and specifically people who have been doing a certain process in a certain way for decades. They feel it very difficult to adapt to a new change, to adapt to a new process, even adapting to a new technology, or adapting to reporting to a new person, or a number of things that you can implement in process changes. So you need to make it very easy for them to adapt to those changes, and if you don't do that, then essentially your new process will lack stability. So if you want the new process to be implemented well in the organization and basically embed in the organization's ethos, it is very important as a consultant for you to be there with the doer, and solve all his queries, all his doubts, and make him comfortable with the new process. Tell him what are the advantages that occur to him because of the new process, and how this lays out a path for growth for that particular person. So this is what change management includes. It is basically the stabilization phase once a new process is launched. So that is what change management is, and it doesn't start after implementing a process. It starts right from when you start the assignment. When you start the assignment, you need to convey, you need to communicate it to the people that why are you doing this, how is it going to help you out, and why it is important for you to accept it as well. So that is where change management actually starts, and it's all about communication. It's all about communication all the time.
Okay, so many students will look up to this answer of yours. The information in this. Okay. What is one tip about creating resumes that you would give to CA students?
Okay. Just to give you a little background on this, so essentially, when I became an entrepreneur, at that time I stopped making resumes, and for me it was something that I'll probably not have to do it ever again. But here I am now. When I applied for consulting roles in the corporate world, so at that time, what I realized about resume making specifically for chartered accountants is, remove all the clutter from your resume. If you have 4 points to tell, just tell those 4 points. Make them very to the point. Nobody wants to read a story, and it is a brochure for you, and you need to make sure that it shows the best of you to the recruiters. They don't want to know everything about you. Okay, they're not expecting you to tell what you did in your articleship, you did this, you did that. No, they're not interested. What they're interested in, how you as a resource can add to their organization, add to their profile. So you want to customize your resume and remove all the clutter that there is. That's the single advice that I would give.
Okay, so just be precise to what the organization needs and what you can offer instead of what you had offered.
Okay, makes sense. So essentially, what happens is when you're applying for a role, you need to have some kind of knowledge of what that role looks like. Okay, and today we have like lots of resources which we can leverage on to get the knowledge of that role, and LinkedIn being the most important one. So reach out to people, understand what the role entails, and like, first of all, does it fit your profile, does it fit your interests? If it fits your interests, well and good. Then what you should do is, just before making the resume, try to create the content that like, these are the 4 things that you would like to show, these are the 4 things that the organization would want from you. Do you have these 4 things in your profile anywhere? Not just in your professional career. Maybe you may be a captain of your cricket team in your college, right? And you may have played national. Show it in front of your resume. So there is a single rule that as consultants we like to follow. Don't tell that you are smart, show that you are smart through your resume. So you have to just you have to re-articulate your words in a way which help you to show your potential, show your talent, and that has to resonate to the profile that the company is offering. So once you get there, your job is done. You may have done statutory audits. Example, specifically for CA students, you may have done statutory audits in your articleship. You may have done internal audits. Okay. If you want to go into consulting, they are more interested in, do you have process knowledge? Do you know how processes work, how the linkages work, right? Then rather than telling them that I have audited say 10 clients, I have done internal audit for 10 clients, tell them what have you done. I identified an opportunity of improvement in the internal financial controls of an organization with 100 CR of turnover. You want to show them the scale that on which you have worked, right? Of having 500 CR of turnover is a listed company, or maybe. So I identified this opportunity, got it implemented, and this was the result. So essentially their turnaround time reduced by 20%, by 30%. So that is what you want to show, rather than telling that I have done this. No, nobody's interested in that. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, that answer was more universal than for the CA students. That is a good thing.
Okay.
Right. So moving on, being a CA, how hard is it, or how easy is it to get articleship, and what advice would you give to the students who want to pursue this?
Pursue consulting, you're asking, right? In future, or
for articleship. Articleship is for CAs, right?
Right. So
just for that.
Okay. For articleship, like, first of all, you need to identify where your interest lies. Okay. If you are clear that your career option for future is you want to establish your own CA firm, then you won't like to go into Big Fours, or you won't like to go into the tier 1 CA firms, because you'll not get the exposure, relevant exposure to all the fields there. You'll get the exposure in a middle-sized firm, maybe having 7 to 8 partners, and having good quality work in audits, taxation, and accounting again. Because as a CA firm, these are the 3 major areas which you'll need to focus on. On the other hand, if your interest lies in that you want to get in the corporate world after your articleship, you want to get a job, and you want to be more stable in your job and get into a particular field or something, then definitely go for either Big Fours or the top 10 CA firms, all the corporate CA firms, essentially, if I can call them that, because what they'll do for you is you will get a hang of how corporate world works, and you'll get a hang of how streamlined everything is, how process oriented everything is, and this is how you're gonna work in future. Second, you get the brand name, which you can leverage upon when you search your jobs, and that definitely add a lot. The brand name adds a lot to your resume. So these are the 2 things why a person should either choose a big firm, a corporate firm, or choose a middle-sized firm. And one thing that a particular advice that I would like to give to all the aspirants who are still looking for articleship and who want to do this in future is that do not settle for the CA firm which may be there at the corner of your street. So just look at where your interest lies. All CA firms have their specialties. Some are doing well in audits, some are doing well in taxation, some are doing well in transfer pricing, some are even doing well now in CFO consulting, which may help you to get into management consulting later on. So you need to research where you want to go and then try to build connects through LinkedIn. Through there are n number of things, n number of areas where you can start building connects, and then start pushing your profile, your candidature forward to them. So that is how you should approach agriculture.
Okay, your answer was very, very insightful, and to be precise, the initial part cleared many, many misconceptions.
Yeah, thank you. It is actually very important for the students to understand this, and I still see a lot of students who do not have this clarity, and who choose a CA firm based on what they get rather than what they want. So this narrative should change.
Definitely. So that would be the concluding part of this session, and you actually answered everything with so much flexibility and ease. I had an amazing time with it, and I hope you did as well.
Yeah, same goes here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you again for taking time out of your schedule to take our one-on-one session today.
Thank you to you too to give me this opportunity.
Okay. So guys, that's it for this one. The session has come to an end, but don't worry, because we'll be back with another thought leader to talk about many, many incredible insights and views you may not have heard about. Take care, and I'll see you at the next session. Bye-bye.